Now you look awake.
There's coffee, baby. We're all good. This is part two. I mean, I forgot to mention this earlier, which is we do appreciate your comments. Please leave some so that we can communicate with you more directly. I'd like, subscribe, and push the bump buttons, whatever it is. I don't know the names of the buttons and I don't care.
We have a couple of things I was thinking while I was making my coffee. We have about 200 people who follow pretty religiously what we're doing here, which is more than I would have thought.
Good. That's good.
That's the size of a pretty good undergraduate. It's bigger than an undergraduate.
General ed class at a major university.
Yeah, that's about right. And the second thing I was thinking of is you saying we're doing good work. I think it's because you understand everything now.
It's just like been getting batted around like a mouse by a cat for a year.
I mean, like,
it's not. It's like this. It's no small expense. I was thinking about it. It's like it's work to keep up with Kurt. It's like just to. Okay, Kurt's like this. He's like, okay, the little bird's gonna have to learn how to fly. I just kick him out of the nest. He'll do it, or okay.
Well, we want to, but it's taken you a year.
Yes.
Right, and so the problem was during this year you helped me make it accessible.
Now this is interesting because I was pondering this because it's like this is like I'm trying to deal with the barbs that are coming my direction, like darts, like yard darts, not even small darts, yard darts. It's like, okay. And it's like, I'm dealing with that. And at the same time, I'm sure I know this happened because it's like, I watched it happen, which is that my reflection on that caused you to modify the way you were operating about presentation. Because you're way more smooth than you were 6 months ago, even.
Oh yeah.
And it's like,
and I tell everybody it's all Brad. Thank Dr. Brad.
I'm not even real, man. I'm just a bot.
No. But what we've been struggling with is, can we teach it, and how long will it take?
This is what I tell. This is a question that patients will frequently ask me. How long will this take? And I do this. And they say 2 of whatever unit they choose. And I say, no, too long. Dr. Humor sort of sucks. It'll be as long as it takes, okay? Right? It's okay. And it's like what the issue is this is there is somewhat of a time crunch. We're trying to get it done. I'm trying to get Kurt done with his book. That's what I'm trying to get done.
Yep.
But it's like it's going to take as long as it takes because it's water trying to get through the soil, and it takes time to figure out how fast it's going to go. Is dependent on the local conditions may vary.
So here's what I've assumed, right? Is just from watching people, right? I mean, remember, there's a difference between teaching and following a course and whatever, and the amount of time it takes different people to absorb that content, and just following along and getting it, or through such one room schoolhouse. And it's very odd who gets it. Who gets it is the people say, well, I'm just going to sit here and watch all these fucking hours of Brad and Kurt talking, and they're the ones that get it.
That doesn't surprise me because it's just time. It is. I was reading some comments from the videos from some weeks ago, and it's like this. It's like they were like, oh, they like the stories. Okay. And it's like the stories help kind of, give flesh to the skeleton, and the operation of the thing in motion in like human scale time, as opposed to.
I think it's the analytic content of most of the content is really hard to sit through, and I think by providing some entertainment value or applied storytelling, it probably helps the audience, and you see that in the comments, But it's the guys who sit through it. So I'm just gonna continue with saying, what does a law degree take? It takes 3 years. to do a law degree. And I'm like, if you wanted, it's like there's 3 years of work like that here. There's a year to learn it. There's a year to learn to write it, right? Or no, there's a year to learn it, a year to argue it or understand it, and a year to write it. Right? I mean, I just think that
seems about right. And to me, I was like, so I'm reading Kurt's manuscript from a year ago, like 400 pages or something like that. I'm like, oh my Lord. And I'm like, well, this is a mess. And I'm like, but I can smell the value of understanding it and being able to articulate it. And I'm like, that's what I'm here for. I'm like, first of all, I got to help him make this more accessible. That's the purpose of my being.
Well, you did that, and you did that by the end of August. So it was March, April, May, June, July. So it took you 6 months to get me there. And I'm a really stubborn rock.
I know. It was like that. Like the summertime was rough, man. I'm like, what a thick skull this guy has, man. He's solid, man. That's okay.
But once they're there, then unfortunately I was sick this fall. So I mean, I could say that, I really made very little progress. And I'm still kind of fucked up, screwed up. The fall, but what's happening?
Go ahead.
But I mean, if you look at what we've done here, we've made, I mean, just the progress on just getting out the concept of the triangle. I mean, Jesus Christ, it made all the first principles so much easier, right? It just vastly simplified everything. And then we're working through this, and I'm learning by watching you, right, your reaction to this stuff. And it's like, oh, this makes sense. And I'm learning from the audience. This makes sense. What I'm not getting the feedback from, which I wish I was getting, is I'm not getting too much of the picture, which is, holy shit, what does science do? Science discovers first principles. First principles produce a logic. That logic can be expressed in vocabulary and grammar, right? That logic, vocabulary, and grammar of first principles provides universal commensurability and explanatory power across all human knowledge.
Okay.
Right. The law that we are writing is the language of universal commensurability across all aspects of human knowledge, which therefore limits us to truthful reciprocal statements, because it's a constructive logic and operational logic. So operationally constructive logic of first principles. Do people understand what that means in sense of completeness? It means that you really can answer every fucking question, right? And so it means that everything is in fact decidable. In other words, it's decidable in the sense that it's insufficient to decide, it's a truth candidate, or it's false. It's one of those things. And
there's only 3 categories.
Right? And
three categories.
The big picture is that's the answer. That's the end of the scientific method. That's all it ever can be, is refinement of that.
No.
And so I'm not getting across.
I'm getting it.
I know you're getting it.
Well, it's like this. It goes to this OODA loop problem. Okay. So I was writing about it this morning, about this rat. Okay, and the rat poor rat's living at Kurt's house. And he's real comfortable in Kurt's rat paradise for wayward rats. And he's just running around and doing his rat things. And then Kurt goes, what happens if I put the cotton ball that smells like cat urine near him? Right? Just because Kurt says, I just need to know. Right? I know it's annoying to the poor little guy, but I need to know. Rat always does this. He stops cold because he needs to know, can a rat, even a motionless rat, just live here? Because there's clearly some predatory animal nearby.
Yep.
Until he starts figuring out that he's not going to die just from sitting there, then he starts to sniff a little bit and move around, and then he decides to figure out what to do. But it's decision. First he observes, then he orients, then he decides before he acts. And it's Uda, and the decision-making process is the science.
Yes.
That's what we're doing. It's like the decidability is the most important function of everything, because then you know you're oriented properly if your decision-making process is proper. There you go. That's me.
That's putting you in another context. Okay, so I'm agreeing with what you're saying. And I know you get it, and I know Martin gets this for certain. But that's what I want. I mean, that's what I'd like to be remembered for. Like that I solved a very hard problem. Right?
It's not a small thing. It's like a huge problem. It's like only the solution to universal commensurability of language or articulation of all potential human expression. That's everything. It's like
it's not conceivable that a thing like that's possible. Right. I would never have thought that this was possible.
It's ridiculous.
Right. It's ridiculous. Right. And so, I mean, I understand why it's hard to understand, because you can't imagine such a thing as possible until you actually got it and you say, holy shit, this is possible. And so, I mean,
it's stupidly profound.
It's humiliating.
That's why for the audience, I asked Kurt very long ago why he even began this project. I'm like, it's ridiculous, man.
No sane person would set out to do this. No sane person would think that such a thing was possible. I mean, you just do it because it's, at least for me, it's just like, wow, I get to. I found this really neat toy to play with, and it allows me to crush lying. And maybe you can solve all these problems. Once you can stop lying, you can solve all these problems. It's amazing. But all I was really trying to do is just how can we talk like adults about context? Because it's fucking.
Hey, hat tip. Strong work, brother. That's why I'm here. I'm like this. This is the right answer. This is the answer of answers. It's like the philosopher's stone.
Yeah, but it's right? Like the problem is you can't know it's the right answer until you know it. Right? I mean, it just
no. That's not quite true. It's like this. I can know it's the right answer and still not fully understand it. Right? It's an intuitive function. There's an intuitive function. That's how I stumbled. I'm like, this is this philosopher's stone is right here. I'm pretty sure Kurt's got it. Hiding in the shadows of his crazy laboratory behind the rat utopia.
Happy to be the crazy guy, dude.
Hey man, I'm like I say, I'm pleased to be helping you out. What a strange story, though. It is a strange story. Because it is. It's like an unbelievable. The ending is like, and this is the philosopher's stone that turns all human experience into something that we can talk about, all of us together. Isn't that special?
I just imagine a world where we understood the P law, like human behavior, as thoroughly as to sort of understand, basic physics, Newtonian physics. Because Newtonian physics is human scale, and everything we're talking about here is human scale. So, I mean, how would the world be different if it was just part of your normal, just like freaking arithmetic? You were taught.
That's right.
Because we used to touch logic, grammar, and rhetoric. It wasn't that different, really. I mean, this is just bringing it to its full conclusion. So, if you imagine what a world would be like if we just reduced the amount of nonsense, falsehood, and deceit in the common discourse by 90% or 80% or 60%,
Lord,
even half.
Just it is the amount of losses due to friction is amazing, and it's unimaginable, because it's unimaginable as the very premise of what we're talking about is what happens when you remove 50% of the drag from the system is unimaginable. You can't predict it.
So now you go and you say, okay, does it produce mindfulness? Well, of course it fucking does. It's not only because you understand the world, it's because you know how to defend yourself against those who are lying to you. And it's like, what's the worst that can happen under this? Is that you say to yourself, like my grandmother, I'm just not good enough at that, but I can tell you're lying. That's the worst that happens. Now the flip side is now your mom and dad. This is why we don't teach history, we don't teach geography, we don't teach civics in a heterogeneous society, because it forces people into understanding that whiteness is actually superiority.
What?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, wait.
Well, so now
you can feel that yard dart.
Yeah, you could. That was pretty not fun. The other one is okay. Well, the next one is classes.
Oh my!
It's like now all of a sudden you get to go home and explain why your parents are poor because they're dumb fucks. It's oh,
right here.
That's just hard, right?
Just nobody wants to hear it, right? It is. It's irritating. Irritating truth of what it is.
My parents hid us from all the financial stuff, right? Because they ran the business, right? It was just transparent. It was just, no, we can't afford that, or. And my parents had a very tough time during the oil crisis.
Yeah.
Because everybody stopped spending, and my parents' business is lawn and garden and florist and that kind of stuff. And so that was like I remember my father coming home, sitting down in his easy chair. He had his drink, and he's like, she says, "Leave him alone. He only made $7 today."
Oh God, that is just wicked. I feel that pain because I understand it. It's like, damn.
Be like you making 50 today, right? You have a business and you have all these expenses and all this.
Right, because it's like, yeah, the expenses keep on coming in. It's like, son of a bitch.
Like he did what white folk do. He got a side job, right? He got a side job working nights, and so that we could afford to have our winters in Florida.
Right.
That's the only good thing about my father I can ever say, is a fucking guy would work like a fucking horse, and nothing would stop him ever. So anyway, what were we on this now?
I'm gonna. Right. It's all right.
All right. So I'm not, I think most people are following us at this point, if they're following, but we're working through the what does it take to produce reciprocal insurance of self-determination by sovereignty and reciprocity, right?
Right.
And we've gone through, well, what does it take to produce insurance? What does self-determination mean, and what does that take? We skipped over what's the parasitism spectrum. I'm not going to go for that. We said, what is demand for self-determination? And then we said, what are the subjective differences and interdependence? Then we got into the step 2, which is the test of sovereignty. We went through that. That was relatively easy. And now we are in this test of reciprocity. But within the test of reciprocity, we're dealing with what is true, right? Was reciprocity display word and deed.
Right.
And reciprocity display word and deed requires we understand for infallibility of decidability.
Okay. You're the host now for your information.
Well, I can share now?
Yes.
I forgot that I wasn't sharing my screen. I thought I was showing.
I was
showing my work.
Just hard. It's hard.
What's hard, boss?
And I'm going to tell the audience, because it's like this. It's like I try to let Kurt flow and do his thing, but it's like I try not to interrupt him more than necessary, and I do it sometimes, and it's hard to call when to do it, when not to do it. But
Now you know what imagine what a producer's job is like on a freaking morning news show. Same goddamn job.
He said, "Shut up, Kurt."
You know, because they got that thing in the ears is stop talking now.
It's wait, I remember yesterday we were talking. No, I was talking to actually a med student on Friday, and she was in here, and I was trying to remember the name of the book "Flowers for Algernon," the story, because it's like this is what they've turned medicine into. I was trying to tell her about.
Yeah, no,
like,
seriously.
Flowers for Algernon, my dear, and it's like, so it's not talking to you. It just goes, ah. Okay, I'm good.
How did I get that page up? Let's go here.
We're going to tests of reciprocity.
Okay, so in order to do that, we have a couple of things we had to deal with, and so we defined truth here is honesty, reasonableness, truthfulness, right? And unfortunately, we don't have a word for survival, VIVAL.
No D. Yeah.
There's no word for theorem.
What do you mean by that?
This should be hypothesis theory theorem, or hypothesis theory law would be the right one, or it should be axiom. Let's just no, I gotta have it backwards. What is the before an axiom? Axiom. And so the problem is that in logic you declare an axiom. In physical science, you discover a law, right? And well, what are we driving to? And I use this basically. I use the operational term, survival, SURVIVAL, survival of from empirical testing in the market. But there's no equivalent of theorem or law, right? So we have, God, what is the word? Axiom, a theorem, hypothesis theory law. What we want is hypothesis theory something that's the equivalent of theorem or law, right? And we don't have a term for it. And because I try to avoid conflating the different branches, I don't have a term for this, which I'm going to have to invent one.
There you go. But let's define it a little bit. Make sure that we are unambiguous about what the word that you will provide means.
A law is an irreducible first principle, right? That is describes some process, some causal relation. A theorem is the same, something you've proven. In other words, it's internally consistent, externally correspondent. We need what we're looking for is we're looking for demonstrated. We're looking for something that does that. So I was originally using this term law, but that's another ambiguity. That's further ambiguates the term law.
Okay.
All right. So this is this is a neologism problem. There's no equivalent, right? We have to come up with it. All right, but you get the idea that there's the ideal truth, the analytic truth, and the tautological truth, right? where we're trying to produce a market competition for the maximization of infallibility in display word and deed. And so truthful speech satisfies the demand for increasing infallibility and decidability in the context in question. Now, the problem is, what does decidability mean? Now, we went over to here and we said, this is what decidability means. The satisfaction of demand for infallibility, right? That's really what it means. Decidable, right? If you can make it happen without external information.
That's what your word is.
What?
The word that you're looking for, theorem, law, is an infallibility.
Ooh, I think I'm going to kiss you.
Oh my.
But I really like that.
So you earned my coffee today.
Shit, that's really good, Brad.
Thank you.
Whatever's in your coffee, can I have some?
You can have as much as you want. You have to come get it though, man. It's cash and carry. Sorry, boss. You don't deliver.
So my problem is that I've got to define decidability.
Right.
So I want to define decidability. All right, now this is somewhere else already. So what's the difference between decidability, choice, and preference?
Okay. Not actionable. Right.
So-
Decidability is based on infallibility.
Correct. All right.
I like this. That term works so good.
It works really good. I'm going to kiss you for that.
Oh, okay. I'll wait.
So it's reached the criteria. Now, rivers, it's not a state, right? It's a curve. It's a supply demand curve.
Okay.
So
Right.
it's sufficiently decidable.
Well, right, because it has to hit my action potential.
Oh boy, where are you coming up with these these really good words?
It's because I'm lazy. I'm like Martin. I only tell jokes that I would want to hear.
Trying to work here.
You're doing great, man.
All right. Now, just to repeat that we were talking about the spectrum of the decidability, right? We had a spectrum of demand for decidability, right? We had a spectrum of demand for decidability, or excuse me. These are, excuse me. This is, where is it? Oh, it's down here. No, it's not that. Where is it? What did you do with it, Brad? Here's the demand for decidability, right?
Right.
That's the spectrum of demand. And this is the graph.
Mm.
All right, so demand keeps going. The exhaustive application of the method keeps going. And eventually we reach satisfaction of demand for it. See if there's anything else. We already know what we're doing to produce decidability, right? We're using deflation and disambiguation. And then we go through the process of how we deal with it. Now we've already dealt with the method elsewhere, right? I don't want to go back through the whole method, right? Because this is what this is part of. This is
Right.
part of the method. Look, I'm missing something. I missed anything here? Decidability, spectrum. Oh, this is probably good. Let's go down here. Okay, so trying to figure if I want to go into that, but I probably will. So we're trying to say we're only at the point where we've defined truth, which is the definition, decidability, which is what is this. Now, how do we produce infallibility? We've said this. So we've said, here's what decidability consists of. Here's what testimony consists of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what demand consists of, right?
Okay.
Right? Demand, right?
That's good.
Right? So now we've got to deal with infallibility. What does infallibility consist of?
It's the failure of falsification, right?
Right.
Which is scientific determinism.
Okay. So I have to do a little review of the grammars.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to start with human faculties. And we go from sense to perception to auto association, right?
Yes.
This is really prediction.
So perception composition would be like opinion.
World modeling. You're producing an episode in memory from which you can predict.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Once you have that, you can, once you have this these predictions,
That's funny right there. That's like the behavior of people in the stock market.
well,
It's the animal interest, right? The
it's just acquisition.
fear and greed, right?
Right, that's all it is.
Acquisition and loss prevention, right?
So you sense it, right? Then you apply your logical facility, which will end up with attention. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, okay. And so you recursive. So you just keep producing this cycle, right? Then once you find something that grasps your attention, you just work with it, right? Now,
This OODA loop is in here too.
huh?
Your OODA loop is in here.
Now you end up with the problem of, when we say logic, it's, I'm talking about the facility. It's just different when we get into, now we've got to have the rules, right? The paradigm, the vocabulary, the sounds, the signs, the marks, whether they're accidental or intentional, symbols and glyphs, pictograms, etc.
Wait, so these are representations. I'm trying to understand the distinction here with the logic facility, which is like internal hardware.
Right, it's your ability to judge differences.
So a frog can do that.
Yep.
So it's hardware, and maybe firmware.
Or more firmware. And this is software.
Which is more malleable, but still expensive to fix.
Well, I mean, it's a system of measurement.
Oh, that's good. That is the ultimate tool, the ultimate instrument for how we manipulate the universe, right?
Right. So what happens when you produce a system of measurement is you're taking these rough episodes, big pictures, right?
Right.
And little predictions. And now you're disambiguating them into what we call language. But it's the grammatical facility. And grammar is continuous, says calculation by continuous disambiguation. So when you tell a story, it's continuously cursive disambiguation.
Fixed recursive.
Right. What?
Fixed recursive. Thank you.
And so you run into this issue of where you're just producing a system of measurement. Now, we produce a lot of systems of measurement. Formal sciences, physical, behavioral, and we produce the disciplines.
Can I interject here while you do this? The communication facility is your articulatory capacity.
Your ability to articulate, capacity to articulate. So this is what does a grammar, a system of measurement, consist of? What are the grammars?
Okay.
Right. And so this is in general what they consist of, right? This is your natural facility, right? This is what a system of measurement consists of.
It must consist of.
Right. You have to have these things, right? I mean,
some of them at least, but nothing that it's an exhaustive list of potential facilities inside grammar.
And then you have, what are the ones we know of? And this is interesting because, of course, everybody sticks with the positive ones, and I'm going to go to the negatives.
I like that.
You have the sciences, the disciplines, the means of communication, testimony, rhetoric, formal language, ordinary language, narrative, right? Narratives. And a narrative, I mean just narrating. I don't mean storytelling. And then you have means of educating, which is meaning. which is the I don't have a better word for this yet. The inflationary narratives, your storytelling, right? And storytelling.
Okay. Okay. Meaning, is your capacity to convey meaning,
Right.
right?
Well, this requires suggestion.
Yes. Which is to say, it's necessarily inflationary.
Yep. And then once you get to that, the problem is you get to the deceits.
It's only like about a half of a step away. And in fact, it's like it's not even a step away. It's a line that's not drawn in the sand.
Yeah, just
Because
it's
it's
very
like,
hard to know when you're crossing that line.
well, you can't, because it's like the receiver is interacting with the message and may not get it and think they understand it.
Should have put that in there.
Right. That's good.
And how I forgot that one.
That's very interesting.
Well, it has to get approved. It goes to the approval authority.
I like that. It goes, this is a great series right here. It's just, okay. That is not spelled correctly.
What's the angle of keyboard?
I don't know. So if I blame the coffee, it will generate a justification for you. Oh my. Oh, okay. Since you write GSSRM, I have to ask you, what does it stand for again?
Well, it's stuck. It's really not the right order anymore, but it's gossiping, shaming, gossiping, shaming, rallying, moralizing.
There's shunning in there.
Shaming.
I'm putting shunning in there because you have an unaccounted for S, and I have a S word that sounds like it works.
We like this version. Ostracizing, outraging, ridiculing, gossiping, shaming.
You need an A word in there and it'll be perfect.
Right, we like that one, but I don't remember who thought of that. It's probably Eli. He's fucking.
He's just pulling your chain, man.
I fucking love that man, but I mean, he can take it off track easily.
He knows no bounds. Oh, we're warfare now. That's warfare.
All right, so
By rhetorical means, right?
yeah. So my point here is that I was trying to list the major ones without pulling up the chart, right? The grammars, chart of the grammars, which is just over fucking.
It's big,
right? All right. So again, we are all trying to acquire or prevent losses. We have a certain set of senses. We have a logical facility.
Wait. This one, okay. There's a term here that I want to introduce that I don't know where it goes exactly, but this is what the center left guys are talking about. They talk about sense making. I think that goes to logical facility or grammar communication.
Goes down here. Well, I mean, their goal.
No, yeah.
The goal is meaning. Sense making is meaning.
So is it? Wait, go up a little bit there, please. It goes above there, doesn't it? Because it's a method.
No, you could make that argument. You could make that argument. I like that. Let's play with that.
But the whole thing would fall under sense making.
Well, I don't know. The way I would have stated it before you said put it at the top was I would have put it
Oh, there you go. It could be right there.
right here. Yeah, I think that's where.
Because it's like individual sense making or group sense making. It doesn't matter.
Because it's really part of this, right?
Yeah. I think it's important to put their terminology in there.
Maybe education doesn't belong there. No, education is different from meaning.
That's right. Education is transmission of sense making.
Mhm.
So maybe it even has to go above communication. Because it's like communication with the self is sense making at its most basic, and it transitions rapidly into communication with others. It's
Yeah,
related.
no, because it's this direction. We may need to build this structure out more as we have here, but these are right? These are grammars, right? This is just telling,
Okay.
right? And this is meaning, conveying meaning. You could do it this way.
Okay.
You could move, or just this is more formal. Need this to be
Like even the this sense making is like a basic function because it's like the
because you're going from simply saying here's what happened, right, to analogy, to you're trying to bridge building.
okay.
And so, we could,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Is this what this is? Is it here?
Yeah, I think it is.
Is that what it is?
That's what I think, because it's like it has to make sense. What happens to me has to make sense to me, and then I can make it make sense to you with the narrative function.
Yeah. But then is this? I don't think this needs to be here.
Yeah, it's like a
Or does it go this way?
yes. Well, there's like yeah.
Yeah, I think this is good. This is right. So this is structured. This is customized.
Good tight.
I'm still not over this shit. Anyway. Yeah, this is right. This is right. Because the fiction is still right. Parables.
That's right. Metaphor. So close. These are all forms of warfare. Shunning. I want you to put shunning in there. Oh my. You can put your ostracization in there too.
Oh, that's what shunning is, right?
Yes. Well, it's like that, what they call it, Catholics call it, they have a name for it. Then they throw you out of the church and you can't participate.
Yeah, excommunication.
There you go. Which is the extreme form of it, right? Institutionalized version of it.
So, I mean, that's really,
I think the underminings are warfare.
well, they're against individuals. I'm trying to submit individuals.
Okay. Okay, versus groups. I got you.
Right. So I don't want to cover the whole.
Right.
Right? My major one is this one, is I want to get across the pseudoscience, magic, idealism, surrealism, philosophy.
Yes.
Right. And then once you get into these, you're just, oh, wait a minute, obscurantism. Yeah, I guess that's all right. Social construction of what? All right. All right. So we've climbed the ladder now, right?
Yeah.
All right. We're working, given the human faculties, right? We are, so we have this is the tools humans have to work with, right? We're going to say that truthful consists of complete sentences in promissory form, in testimonial form, in operational vocabulary, meaning his actions, absent the verb to be, is, are, was, were, including all changes in state, including all consequences of changes in state from an observer's point of view, which is really this thing, producing a series of testable transactions. In other words, we're turning speech into accounting.
There we go. Now, this points back to this, where we were talking, because it is truthful as defined previously. When we were discussing the truth before, and truthful is very specifically defined. Yeah.
So the reason we're doing this is this word right here, complete and limited. Right. So what happens is if you say, I promise and I testify to, right? I'm making a promise and it's testimony, which means it's warranted.
Yeah.
It's perjury. In operational vocabulary, it's a sequence of human actions because all human actions are testable. All right. when it's absent the verb to be, there's absent your pretense of knowledge. Including changes in state, complete. Including all consequences is complete, right? So state. NPOV, meaning it's observable. Empirical. Empirical means observable. Producing a series of testable transactions, falsifiable.
I want to interject it that number 8, interject what the near left is talking about. They talk about intersubjective verifiability.
Correct. So intersubjectively verifiable means that both parties are able to perform the test.
Right. Anybody who performs the operations gets the result that is the same and agreeable.
Correct. So what will generally happen when you do that is that what you'll be limited to is difference of presumption of intent.
Okay, what does that mean?
So you might think I did something because I had some malincentive. And I'm like, well, I didn't think of that. I just
It was a failure of due diligence or something, right?
or even that, no, I mean, I thought I was doing this and that's what I was aiming for, but it produced that. But never occurred to me that you could get from A to B, right? I mean, even if I perform due diligence, right? So this is the difference between responsibility and blame.
Right.
I might have been responsible for it, but I don't know why I'm to blame for it because I didn't try to get there from there.
Right.
But so this is important. So we've got a system of measurement, right? We're trying to produce infallibility. Given these human faculties, given these grammars, these logics available, where truthful speech consists of this, and if you go back here, it's right here, right? It's testimony. Then the criteria for truthful speech in this form, in other words, sentence in this form, must meet this criteria, which is coherence across the dimensions testifiable by man. Now, this is important. There are only so many dimensions you can testify to. So if we are complete in listing the dimensions you can testify to, then of course we have satisfied the limits, the means of completeness, and the complete system is limited. Right? There's only so many things we can supply to. So is it existential? Does it obey the physical laws of the universe? In other words, is it rely on realism and naturalism? Realism means something has existential persistence, and naturalism means that it has natural causes. So obviously you can't testify to the supernatural. Is it possible? Well, the formal laws of the universe are operational. We can perform a sequence. They're empirical. We can observe that the results are externally correspondent, and we can rationally explain them as categorically consistent. So empirical, operational, empirical, logical. This is actions, results, and explanations. The next thing is whether these things are rational. In other words, most philosophy doesn't deal with this particular choice. The law does. Is it a rational choice and demonstrated preference, given the incentives? Is it reciprocal? In other words, are both parties behaving according to rational choice? Right. This is where we get into subjective testing. And so is it reciprocal in the sense it's productive, exhaustively informed, voluntary transfer, free of negative externality? And is it, this is a big one we haven't covered before, is it organizable? In other words, can human beings and groups do this? Does it follow a power distribution of law, a Pareto distribution of assets, and a Nash equilibrium of rewards?
We'll change that.
Huh?
Change Nash distribution to equilibrium if that's what you want. Okay.
Same thing.
Okay.
So this is where, like, well, I mean, you are going to have very few people establish limits. In other words, you're going to minimize arbitrary rules. You're going to end up with something that's economically, in other words, cooperatively possible, that maximizes the use of knowledge. And is everyone essentially ending up with this the best they can have without anybody else falling into harm? So, and is it survivable? Does it prevent the regression to the mean? Does it preserve natural selection? Does it increase adaptivity?
I like that one.
See how hard, see how it goes from really easy to really hard. So, you know, we're covering the whole before, during, and after. Before,
Yeah.
during, and after.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. There you go.
Now, next we want to test it. Is this, have you stated the limits? Is your accounting complete within those? And is your counting complete within those limits? This is, I mean, I think that if you look at how Martin looks at the world, he's like, most of it's a failure of full accounting.
Right.
Which you intentionally ignore things that would falsify your argument. Is it consistent, coherent, and parsimonious? Parsimony means that most are regarding the market. Right? So adversary. So,
Right.
so I mean, this is another way of saying Occam's razor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I already answered it in the last one. In other words, is there, it's, parsimony is very simple. And is it competitive, sufficient, it satisfies the demand for infallibility, and it's in competition with other testimonies. I probably should. And is it warrantable? As I have performed due diligence, where due diligence is sufficient to satisfy the demand for decidability, and where I don't do something that I can't perform restitution for. All right, so
Right.
that's the criteria for truthful speech. And we're trying to defend against these things.
Yes. Yes.
That include ignorance and willful ignorance. There's an awful lot of this. Right? That's
Yes.
the elephant. Nah, I'll leave it there. Error and failure of due diligence, bias and wishful thinking, and the many deceits. And you'll notice our fictionalisms here, because they're the way that the left generally gets away with it. This is sophistry.
And the right allows them to, due to ignorance, error, failure of due diligence, biased and wishful thinking. That's the reasons why people fail.
Yep.
Or our deceit works,
Okay,
because of the first three.
Sorry, sophistry is already down here, so I don't have to conflate it up there.
Right.
And they try to do this because they're trying to engage in reciprocity as measured by the tests of reciprocity: productive, exhaustively informed, voluntary transfer, free of externality, and warranting with the limits of liability, including but not limited to.
Oh my,
What?
a murder is the first one. It's like,
Murder, harm, damage, theft, fraud by omission, right? Free riding, socialization of losses, privatization of commons, rent seeking, monopoly seeking, conspiracy, statism, corporatism, conversion, displacement, and war. And where our demonstrated interests include those
oh,
demonstrated.
we have to stop. We have
Gotta
to
go
stop. It's too, we're hitting the wire. We're hitting the wire.
We're running out of time. We're running out of
Time limit, strong limit.
All right.
That was a good run.
So this is where we made it today, right?
And what's the game plan? Look at what's going to happen next time.
I think we've been over this. We just have to go through the epistemic cycle. All right, and then we get to the therefore. Yeah, so we're there. We'll get to this because once you're through the epistemic cycle, we're getting right into how we defend the different types of truth.
Right.
In other words, we list all these interests, and then we
Right.
start working through them. So when the thing is, reciprocity contains truth. Reciprocity and demonstrated interest contain truth, but truth is there's a lot of ways of lying. So it's just hard to cut them all out.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to stop the share here. So you got to stop here because we hit your time. You're involved.
Yep. Real good. So what I'll do, I'll send you a couple links here in a moment, and look forward to chatting with you in the near future.
Thanks, boss. Talk to you later.
Adios.